to the next clue, it's there's a door without a handle. I think that is describing the Lackless door, because there's a part where Claudicus, if you remember, Claudicus is the mayor's arcanist. He's the one that was poisoning him, trying to kill him. And Claudicus tells Kavoth a little piece of information about the Lackless family. He says, in the past, it has mutated several times from Leoklos, Loklos, Leolos. All three of these translate as Lackless, which ties into a legend surrounding the family, where it's rumored that there is a secret door on the oldest parts of their ancestral estate which has no handles, hinges, or locks. So that is what leads me to believe that the Lackless door and the Doors of Stone are the same thing. I think that the Lackless door has no handles, no locks, no hinges. It is a smooth door, and that would also align with the Circle of Greystones, where there is, there is no locks, there is no handle, there is no hinges. It's basically like the Stonehenge. And so that would all align with a lockless door, which would align with it being the Doors of Stone. That would also align with it being a lockless door, which would align with it being the Lackless door. And so that's part of the reason I believe that the Doors of Stone and Lackless door are all the same thing.
Hey Dan, going back to this estate with this handleless and hingeless door that's just smooth. Did anybody just think maybe that it's just a wall and try to see what's on the other side? Maybe it's just a wall and the bathroom's on the other side or something. I don't know. It sounds like a wall. Yeah, it sounds like a wall.
Outhouse. Is it by the Stormwall Mountains? I don't remember where they're located.
No, I think she probably lives around where Mayor Alvaron lives. In Ventus.
Okay. Well, yeah, but Ventus on the outer edge, the storm walls are over there. The reason why I bring it up is it feels like the Skrill came from the Stormwall Mountains. Am I wrong about that? It seems like there's a lot.
It came down.
Somewhere. Yeah, he doesn't mention the Stormwall Mountains, but he's like, I thought the mountains, and then he doesn't finish. So it sounded like he was going to say, I thought the mountains would hold him back longer. It would take him longer to get here because they would have to go over the mountains. Okay. But he doesn't say Stormwall Mountains. I would assume it is the Stormwall Mountains. But I think the door leads you to a place. I think it's kind of like the Fae. Like you go through this and then you're not in the actual world. So I think there's going to be some complexity to exactly where the door is and what's the delineation between the Lackless door, the Doors of Stone. I think there's, there's a door you go through that leads you down a path. Like there's a door that you go through at the Lackless door, then that leads you down a path to the Doors of Stone. It could be something like that, where it's not they're connecting pieces, where it's not like just one piece of the puzzle. You got to go through one to get to the other.
So you're saying
it could be complex.
So you're saying the Lackless door could be different than the Doors of Stone, them not being the same.
It could be, or
the university.
It could be that that's not the final step. That once you go through the Doors of Stone, you're traveling to basically like another dimension, and then opening the flood or whatever releases you somewhere else.
Yeah, I wonder.
You don't come out the same place.
I wonder because
could be there. I mean, like there's no way to know exactly what is going to happen, and when you open it, do they come out the same door, or they release somewhere else, or is this two separate doors? There's no way to really know for sure.
He's left it quite open in the sense that we don't really see clearly what the Fae looks like, what it is, what wrap our hands around it or our minds around where this location is. There is
it's basically like another dimension.
Well, and there are multiple doors as well. There's the university, there's this Lackless door, there's there's perhaps another door. So I do believe the Greystones have to play a part because they play into that as well, where they seem to be a channel towards it. And the moon seems to play a part with all of these things as well, which is a really great thing to do, to utilize in my opinion by Rothfuss, is because it's one of those things that throughout cultural history, it's this thing in the sky and you interpret it. All different cultures have put a different spin on the significance of planets, the moon, stars, and utilization of, what these things mean, and interpreting it in different ways. So
yeah, so like you could think of it it could be a situation where there's a Lackless door, you get through that, then you're in the Circle of Greystones, you got to go through that leads you to the Fae. And when you're in the Fae, you're in like some aspect of the Fae that you can't just normally access. Maybe this is the only access point to this part of the Fae. And then once you're going in there and you're able to, you open these doors, you release the flood, but maybe they don't come out where you came in. Maybe they're coming out in a different thing. Or it could all be the same thing. Maybe the Doors of Stone, Lackless door, the same thing, but it's the same thing. Once you go in there, you release the flood. Maybe when you release that flood, they don't come out the same way you came in.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna mention. So that's an interesting part of it, is if it's another dimension. It's also interesting how it's been implied that this door or a door keeps evil at bay.
So
right, and it seems like Sleepless Lanre is behind a door. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like whatever. There's a hindrance. There's something that's being held back that can be released, and that's been implied by the Scrael. That's been implied by the Highwaymen, and just how depraved the world's become. I mean, that's implied in chapter 2. I mean, from the beginning. Well, it's implied from the beginning, from the prologue.
Is there any mention of, going in one place to the Fae and coming out another, location-wise in Kavoth's world?
It's more time.
I know. I know time's mentioned.
I'm sure that that's the case. I'm sure there's multiple ways into the Fae and out of the Fae.
Oh, no.
I don't think that there's just one way in,
one way out. What I mean is because we're led to believe that many Greystones have some kind of, from what he said with Felurian, that many Greystones are doors or entryways. But is there any mention of going a door letting you in one place, but then if you go out the same place from the Fae, that you enter somewhere else in the world?
No, nowhere says that specifically. Yeah, no, I mean, it could be that way. We don't know, but nowhere says it specifically. That's I
kind of wanted to just hash it out because the things that you guys are bringing up in this episode are so mind-boggling, or to new readers. Like, it all makes perfect sense. It makes great sense what you guys are saying, but it's to a first-time person who first time hears it, it's mind-blowing. And there's
my
so
favorite
many
thing
aspects
about it is so much of it is open to interpretation. That's kind of what I like so much about like the Fae itself. It's how you picture it in your mind. It's subtly described. It's subtly, there's these implications of where he's going, what's taking place, but you don't. I mean, it's very hazy. It's very dreamlike. And the whole experience for Kvothe is dream, and we're in him. That's how we experience the Fae. So it's great. I mean, and then the fact that Bast comes out of it and we see who he is. I mean, it keeps everything very open to interpretation. It's super interesting.